of injustice and inequality. Ancestors changed the world, and though they came in chains, in you the strength and hope lives and still remains. You're mighty and majestic, descendants of kings and queens. Royal blood flows through your veins, children of the dream. So hold your head up high, hold your head up high, keep reaching for the keep sky. Reaching, no matter what. I know you can bring it, no doubt about it. You're gonna make it your royalty. Royalty, you are royalty. You royalty. We got a message from above. You ain't no thug. You're royalty. Royalty. Brother, you're a king. Sister, you're a queen. Children of a tree. If you've never been told, time for you to know you're royalty. Oh. That you're royalty, yeah. Every day and every hour, stand up tall, pride and power. No matter what people say about you, we're gonna love. Never ever doubt you. Keep pushing, give it all you got. Don't stop till you reach the top. So hold your head up high. Hold your head up high. Keep reaching. No matter what, no, you can take it. No doubt about it. You know I'm gonna make it yours. You're royalty. Oh, yes, you are. You got a message from above. You ain't no thug. You're royalty. Brother, you're a king. Sister, you're a queen. Children of the tree. If you've never been told, time for you to know you're royalty. You're beautiful. Beautiful. So beautiful. So beautiful. We got a message from above. You ain't no thug. You're royalty. And you're marvelous. Marvelous. It's so powerful. If you've never been told, time for you to know you're royalty. Royalty. Oh, royalty. We got a message for you. We got a message from above. You ain't no thug. You're royalty. My brother. Mother, you're a king. Sister, you're a queen. Oh, children of the tree. If you've never been told, time for you to know you're royalty.
Yeah. King Kuta, here for you and I. Got this message I'm spreading the most high. Head high, I shine like my father smile. Down upon my kings and queens of all times. Blessings, better color, original king ruler. Slave that made a way metaphorically. King Kuta, eyes on prize, my pride won't collide. Am I right in your eyes if I stand on mine?
You are royalty. We got a message from above. You ain't no thug. You're royalty. Brother, you're a king. Sister, you're a queen. Children of the tree. If you've never been told, time for you to know you're royalty. If you've never been told, time for you to know you're royalty. You're royalty. If you've never been told, time for you to know you're royalty. If you've never been told, time for you to know you're royalty.
Welcome. How
Hello,
everybody doing today?
Yes. Hello, everyone.
Welcome to the Sweet Lady OT Gospel Show.
Yes, and we're here today to do as we usually do. We come to lift Christ up today
Oh, yes.
and to give him glory and to give him honor. And then the word tells us in John 12:32, and if I be lifted up from the earth, will draw all men unto me. And there's a song that was made from that scripture, and it's called Lift Him Up. How to reach the masses, men of every birth. For an answer, Jesus gave the key. And if I be lifted up from the earth, will draw all men unto me. Lift him up. Lift him up. Still he speaks from eternity. And if I be lifted up from the earth, will draw all men unto me. Don't exalt the preacher. Don't exalt the pew. Preach the gospel simple, full, and free. Prove him, and you will find that promise is true. I'll draw all men unto me. Lift him up by living as a Christian ought. Let the world in you the Savior see. Then men will gladly follow him who once taught, I'll draw all men unto me. And we're just so happy that we're here today. And we come to share with you today. And today our topic is on the real of mental health. And we know that mental health is just as important as the rest of our body.
Yes.
Our bodies. You know, we sometimes we tend to overlook it, or we tend to not want to give it the attention that it deserves. But guess what? It's all a part of our bodies. And we have to take care of our mental health just as well as we take care of our heart health.
Yes.
Or our kidney health. There are some things we do. We talked about, I think it was last week, about
Yes.
an onion a day. What an onion a day can do for you. You know, because we've heard about an apple a day will keep the doctor away. Well, an onion a day can keep the doctor away too from certain things. So,
Right.
you know, we just want to just be able to take care of ourselves. God gave us these bodies. And he didn't give them to us for us to abuse them. He gave them to us because he wants to dwell in our bodies, and we want him to dwell in clean vessels. We want him to dwell in vessels that are being taken care of.
Yes.
So, you know, this is the first thing that he gives us is ourselves to take care of. Then he blessed some of us with children or spouses or other family members and our neighbors. We're to take care of our neighbors also. We're to do unto them as we would have them do unto us. And we have our guest here today. But before we get to our guest, talk to our guest, I just want to ask OT, how was your day today, OT?
Oh man, my day was very blessed.
Good.
I'm blessed to be here. You know, I had a long, rough day, but I can't complain. You know, so
Mhm.
it was great.
Good. Glad to see you come in.
Yes.
And we have some other guests in the studio with us today. And our guest, she has a master's in clinical mental health counseling, and she also has a bachelor's in psychology. And she's here with us today to talk to us about the real of mental health. And her name is Mrs. Lynetta Harper. Thank you for being here with us, Mrs. Harper.
No problem. Thank you.
Okay, we just want to just get right on into the subject of about mental health. We know that there are certain times of the year that, you know, some people experience depression more than others.
Absolutely.
And we know that, you know, different things causes depression. You know, grief and depression can sometimes go hand in hand, but they're different because you can grieve and not be depressed,
Yes.
or you can be depressed but not be grieving.
Mhm.
So we just want you to just tell us a little bit about mental health overall. You know, you being the counselor, you know, and you know, we want to, you know, be able to give the audience something, you know, to help, you know, those that might be suffering from depression, you know. And sometimes people don't know what to do. You know, you come up on a situation in life and we don't have the information. So we don't have the information, we don't know what to do. So, you know, we're here to try to give a little information out today.
Well, first, I'm so appreciative that you're allowing me to, you know, speak to the masses and talk about such a very difficult topic such as mental health, and especially with depression. And, you know, mental health is the process of, let's just say, assisting people to reach that higher level of satisfaction. Now, the process of mental health is not a quick fixer. You know, some things we expect to go into a situation where our problems are resolved in 5 minutes. Well, that's kind of how it happens on television, but in real life, sometimes, you know, problem resolution can take a little while.
Right.
So mental health is the process of helping you reach that cognitive level, that emotional level, and that behavioral level of health.
Okay.
And so it does carry a little bit of a stigma.
Right.
And I always tell individuals, don't be afraid to reach out
Mhm.
if something is wrong,
Right.
or you
Right.
feel something is wrong, or you feel you're not yourself.
Mhm.
Because what happens is you're isolated now,
Mhm.
and now you're going further and further into unwellness, having a lower level of well-being.
Mhm.
And there's so many different ways to approach mental health and mental well-being.
Right.
And you know what? With that stigma, we're afraid to go out and say, well, I need help with something. And then we're fearful that we'll be, labeled as crazy. But, it's 2019.
Right.
And, it's time for good health.
Right. It is.
Yes.
It is. Okay. And I know mental health has many different categories, but we want to focus on depression. Take these glasses off.
Okay.
We want to focus on depression
Right. Okay.
this time. Tell us about depression. What tell us about what is depression first of all,
All right.
and the signs and the symptoms, and then we want to talk about children. Because I was doing some reading, and I know that many times it says that 50% of people that have mental health issues, it begins to show itself
Mhm.
around the age of 14.
Yes, certain conditions, the onset is usually about 15, because you're transitioning from childhood into adulthood to young adulthood, and that's when you'll notice that there are differences in your development. So depression overall, it's not just a behavioral situation. Depression is a biological illness. Okay. So depression also has a very real genetic component. So if you are a child of a parent who was living with depression, the likelihood of you experiencing that is a little bit higher than someone who did not have a parent with depression.
Okay.
And so you're not just treating depression and saying, okay, well, I'll just talk to someone and I'll overcome this. I'm here to tell you that it doesn't work that way. With depression, you have to treat it medically.
Okay.
You have to treat it medically, and that's with medications as well as with talk therapy. And one of the a few symptoms to depression, they're different sometimes between men and women. And one of the symptoms for women is sadness, crying, right? Irritability, that's pretty general with depression. Not enjoying activities that you used to, or having to have someone help you with your activities of daily living. That's definitely depression. And how depression usually manifests for men is aggression or anger. And so absolutely. And so that's that little tidbit there. So if you're thinking, someone's constantly aggressive or angry, for a gentleman, that could be a sign of depression.
Okay.
And we have many reasons, of course, to be depressed.
Yes.
And so how do we know when we need to get some help?
Right.
So anything can happen in our lives where we're experiencing depression. Somebody may pass away. And we're experiencing a level of sadness, and there's really no particular time to grieve, but after about a year to 2 years, we're looking into something like clinical depression or persistent depression, major depressive disorder. But anything under that, you're kind of in your normal range of feeling sad or feeling that hopelessness.
Okay.
So that's pretty normal. And with children, it's a little different with children. When we're looking at depression, with children, we're looking at acting out behaviors possibly, sleep irregularities, which is kind of general, but you'll see that with children. And it's a very debilitating condition if it goes untreated.
Okay. All right. So you did mention, you said, about you have to at some point get some help.
Absolutely.
So go a little bit into more about when should we just give ourselves some time that this may go away, or I can change my diet, or I just need to get out and exercise, or I know all of those things help.
Of course. Yeah.
But when is it to the point where okay, now you need to go see a doctor. You need to go talk to somebody and get some help.
Right. So we're looking at least 2 weeks
Mhm.
of persistent sadness
Okay.
and persistent inability to do the things that you normally do.
Mm-hmm.
If you're so sad to where you're not able to feed yourself, you're not able to shower, you're not able to do something small like go to the grocery store, it's time to talk to someone,
Right.
to seriously speak to someone.
Mhm.
And if you have experienced this sadness for an extremely long time, and I'm talking about several months to several years, and it's been off and on, then yes, there might be a chronic situation there.
Mhm.
And it's best to speak to the appropriate individuals. And it's nice that we go to see our physicians,
Mhm.
but physicians are not psychiatrists.
Okay.
Physicians are not clinical mental health counselors.
Mhm.
These are people that specialize in behavior and mental health. And MDs are just that, general practitioners.
Okay.
Right.
So, so would you advise though that would be the first step, and have him or her refer the patient to a psychiatrist, and well, saying, well, this is kind of out of my hand, or
As a matter of fact, individuals are very much open to seeking a clinical mental health counselor,
mhm.
and the clinical mental health counselor can refer you to a psychiatrist.
Okay.
Absolutely. And a lot of the times you can go to your physician and say, I'm feeling some kind of way, I'm sad, and I really need some assistance. And
Mhm.
instead of just taking that medication that they're giving you, which you should follow the doctor's, orders, but also ask to speak to a behavioralist,
Mhm.
a behavioral specialist, because that's where you're going to really get the chance to process whatever it is that's wrong.
Okay.
And the medications also assist
Mhm.
you in your recovery, that emotional recovery, because
Mhm.
we're talking about depression, which is a biological dysfunction as well. So it's, getting that recovery, emotional recovery started is what you're going to do.
Okay.
Wow, that's deep. When you say men, it could be something like anger.
Mm-hmm.
That's very deep. I never even thought about that. But you catch a lot of people being angry.
Yes, a lot.
Right. Is that what they're dealing with?
Sometimes.
Yeah, more
Right.
often than not, that's usually, the culprit is depression. And we don't want to call it depression, because guess what? Then we're weakened in some kind of way, or we become vulnerable in some kind of way. And, if I can kind of turn the tables a little bit, we find a lot of depression amongst our ethnic individuals. And we don't want to call it that, because someone, we're already a minority people, and then you have someone to stick a title on you. We call it sticking a title.
Uh-huh.
But those titles are important to our recovery, whether it is depression or some form of psychosis or something of another. It's a part of who we are, our medical makeup, and it's difficult to separate the mind from the body. You can't.
Right. And it's funny that you should bring that up. I had a class, and I told you we had to discuss about the mind being different from the body,
Mm-hmm.
but it's all one. Because many times if we can't our sight, something goes wrong with our sight, we're going to our eye doctor.
Mm-hmm.
But if something happens to our mind, we don't want to go to a mental doctor.
Of course.
We want to try to handle that ourselves.
Mhm.
But we have the help. There's help for us and we get in those situations. And I don't know whether or not, because I've always wondered, well, can you tell when there's something wrong other than you just being sad? Is there something going on in the mind? Will you do things that you shouldn't be doing, or how does that work?
Usually with depression, if you have persistent depression,
Mhm.
things can change. There is a such thing called psychotic depression.
Mhm.
And so absolutely, you're doing things that you're not normally doing.
Okay.
You're hearing things, you're seeing things, hallucinations, auditory hallucinations. So very much so. There's different types of depression. And one type of depression I think we kind of skip sometimes. We forget that there's bipolar depression,
Mhm.
right? There's bipolar type 1,
Mhm.
and then there's bipolar type 2. Type 1 is more along the line of psychosis. Bipolar type 2 is mostly depression, but in both cases, you see situations of mania.
Mhm.
They are recurring mania in some kind of way. And when those things happen, absolutely, if you know your loved one is experiencing this, they're not taking care of themselves, they have children and they're not tending to their children, or they're just not going to work, it's time to put something in action.
Right.
Time to help them get some help. And you did point something out, and I wanted to say something about that. Mental health counseling can be costly, and I think a lot of the times people shy away from it. But you have many different types of clinical mental health counselors. And so a lot of the times our people, and I call it our people, our ethnic people, are terrified to go out there because, will this counselor understand me? You have the choice of staying with that counselor or finding one that fits you.
Right.
Because each counselor has a specific system or orientation that they come from. Mine in particular, I love so much, is called cognitive behavioral therapy, or CBT. I'm also DBT. And from those orientations and from that system, it goes hand in hand with depression and helping you to rebuild. It's like emotional relearning, how to live again.
Okay.
And so it's easy, it's adaptable, and it's also something that people can do and become very active in their own care.
Okay. And that's one of the things that in any kind of care, we have to become active ourselves. We have to want the help. Because otherwise, can't nobody help us. We have to say you can lead a horse to the water, but you can't make him drink.
And that's true.
And
that's
so,
very true.
if you want the help is there.
Absolutely.
The help is out there. Okay. We should.
I'm gonna ask for this right here. It seems like it's like different stages, right? Because you get to a point in your life when you want to take your life. I had a coworker, his wife was depressed, and she took her life. So is there like different stages? Like that's the last stage you in when you want to do that?
Sometimes it's not. And I'm happy you mentioned the topic of suicide, because it is a very real, serious condition, to be in. And usually the stages of depression, it starts kind of small. Usually small depression or minor depression is something you can overcome. I failed that exam, but oh well, I'll take another one. And then there's that depression where I failed that exam, and now I'm ready to end my life because I cannot see anything else. I can't see the forest for the trees. I'm so down. And sometimes it's not that moment of rock bottom. Sometimes it's that moment of, I'm just tired of living. I've seen situations like that, and I've heard people say, I have nothing to live for. Why am I here? And so when you get to that point, don't allow yourself to get to that point. And sometimes it's easier said than done. But when you notice that you are blue, when you are sad, when you're crying for no reason, what we call for no reason, it's time to put something in action. Try to get yourself some help. And it's good to tell people. We are such a private people that we won't tell someone else. We won't tell our uncles. We won't tell our best friends, I'm sad. I'm just not feeling like myself.
Right.
Because we're fearful of ridicule.
Yeah.
But the best lifesaver is the next person you tell that you trust.
Right.
Okay.
All right. We going to take a little break here for some inspiration. And when we come back, we will open up our lines to anybody that would like to call in and talk with Mrs. Harper about depression or any mental health thing that's on your mind. Anything about mental health is on your mind. And we'll be right back after this.
Sweet Lady and OT Gospel Show.
Right here on Smash Bros Radio.
I know it's hard, unbearable. I know how you feel. I traveled this same road, and all you want is someone to hear your bleeding heart overflowing with tears. I hear you say that nobody knows contemplate. Suicide was no joke. Worthless inside, left with no fight. But this can't be all, 'cause you still have life. I'm here to speak hope to you. If I made it, you can make it too. You may feel like life is over. I won't let you go.
Here's my number: 2, 4, 6, 8, 9, $90.
Never gonna give up, never gonna give up. I'll take your hand and you'll take mine. We'll conquer this thing they call life. We're fighters, never gonna give up, never gonna give up. No, I won't let you fight alone. We're confident and we'll stand strong. That seems fun, yeah, we all know the struggle's real. But you can let go, 'cause you're trusted with this fight you're in. We're champions, we will win. I'm here to speak hope to you. If I made it, you can make it too. You may feel like life is over. I won't let you go. Together we'll make it through. You're never gonna give up. I'll take your hand. We're conquerors. We're conquerors. Yes, we are. Oh, we won't quit. And I'll stand with you. We'll stand strong. On days when life's too much for you, I fight for you. When you get weak, I'll be your strength and I'll fight for you. It's a temporary moment. I won't let them take over you. 'Cause victory's calling. Shout with me. Stand with me. Oh, yeah. Yes, we are. I'll take your hand. We'll stand our ground. We're more than conquerors. We will win. Yeah, yeah.
And we're back
And we're back.
to the Sweet Lady and OT Gospel Show right here on Smash Bros Radio. And we have our guest in the studio with us today, Mrs. Lynetta Harper. And she is a counselor, mental health counselor. And also the number to call in, we've been talking about depression, and the number to call in if you like to talk to Mrs. Harper, the number is 205-436-2583, 205-436-2583. All right. And Mrs. Harper just told us about what depression is, how you can recognize depression, signs and symptoms, and also a key thing she said today was that it manifests itself differently in men and women.
Yes.
And one of the ways that it manifests itself in women is that women tend to be more sad, do a lot of crying, and men may become more aggressive, have lots of anger, more so. But they're dealing with depression. They're trying to, fight from getting down, and so we need to be able to recognize these things to help our to help our neighbor, to help our loved ones. We know I had been thinking, I said, now I know many times, from the different things that we've heard about on the news, people going in, doing massive shootings and doing this and doing that. And then you hear them say, well, if they had a mental health issue, well, did anybody get them any help? Did they try to get themselves some help? Because, it's real. The mind gets sick, just like my eyesight might decide it wants to go decrease.
Absolutely.
I'm dealing with that now. I have to have some glasses to read with. Okay, the doctor say that's all I need. I just need reading glasses. But sometimes I think I need glasses for full vision, but sometimes I can't see good.
Right.
But I went to a doctor, right? Okay. If I feel like I'm depressed, or if there's something in my behavior has began to act differently, well, I need to see a mental doctor. There's nothing wrong with that. And can we have a call? All right. You're on the Sweet Lady and OT Gospel Show. You're on the air.
Hey,
Hi.
yeah, I had a question for Dr. Harper as soon as they're ready.
All right. Go ahead.
Okay.
Yeah, my question for Dr. Harper was, do you think the reason why a lot of African Americans don't choose to seek help for mental health is because there's not a lot of people that look like them that offers it, and they feel the stigma might be too harsh?
You know what, caller, that is actually a very good question. And by the way, I'm a clinical practitioner. I'm not an MD. So there's a big difference. That's general medicine. And I'm a little more on the behavioral health side. So I just wanted to put that out there. And yes, one of the major reasons, ethnic minorities are not pursuing, their mental health and trying to improve their mental health is because there are not very many clinicians that look like us, although they're very much out there. However, we would best fit with something that's more culturally specific. And oftentimes we feel a little out of place if we go and see someone who's not familiar with the African American heritage, or who's not familiar with Native American culture or Asian American culture. But I'm here to tell you that there are people out there. And like myself, I definitely target ethnic minorities because I want them to come in. And as a matter of fact, I'm actually doing it for free. 100% free for those who are really wanting to experience mental health counseling. And if you're interested, then I could leave my number and you can call, and it's as simple as that, to just show up and at any time that you feel is best suited for yourself. And so yeah, that's a really good question.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Carla, could you turn your background down for us?
Okay.
Okay. All right.
Okay, that's good. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
All right. Was that all that you wanted to talk to Mrs. Harper about? Thank you so much for calling in.
All right.
All right.
This topic right here is, it's gonna be a little difficult. Get callers, like you said, a lot of people are afraid to admit when they're, they have this, this problem.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's gonna be like, I don't think I have a problem. I'm okay,
Mm-hmm.
They don't want to talk about it, but really, in reality, you need to talk about it.
Right. And I know that myself, I would just I experienced some issues. One issue that I experienced was being fearful. And I know that it was because of something that happened. Somebody broke into our home and I felt violated.
Mm-hmm, absolutely.
And it took me a while to get over that. And even now, I still think about that because, it was, I believe that what happened caused my third child to be born early because I was under so much stress.
That's traumatic. Yes.
Because, when you walk into, get home and your door is open.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, okay, do I go in? What do I do? And at this time, I had a 4-year-old and a 15-month-old, and I'm 9 months pregnant. So, that was very traumatic to me.
Absolutely.
And it has been many times, I thought about that. And it's like, it's like a fear.
Oh yeah.
And I know that in time, you get over things, because I had to,
Absolutely. You have to keep
push.
going.
I had to keep going, because I got little children, so I can't just let this grip my life and keep me from living. But I know everybody don't have that mindset and can't move forward like that, but if you get in a situation like that and you can't move forward, you need to talk to somebody, because clinical helpers, clinical mental health doctors, counselors are not just for depression.
Absolutely.
There are other issues, like your child may have a problem at school sitting down, because they're hyperactive. Well, get some help for your child. It's nothing wrong with getting help for the child.
Support for yourself.
Right. And so it's many varied reasons of why you may want to talk to a mental health doctor. It don't necessarily mean that you're crazy, as the word
Yes.
that a lot of times we don't want to be, labeled as. So we just appreciate you coming in today and sharing with us. And if anyone would like to talk to you, I know many times people don't want to, as OT said, don't want to come out as though there's something wrong with them. Okay. But they can talk to you in a private
It's
setting,
absolutely private.
and also
absolutely private.
very, very private.
Absolutely private.
Right. And the number where you can be reached is
205-441-4508. And at the moment, I am taking people absolutely free. It doesn't matter what your condition is. Just come on in. And you know what? I'll do my best to assist you in feeling better. So there's absolutely no charge.
Okay. We have a question from one of our viewers on Facebook Live. They say, how do you feel mental health is dealt with in the Black church?
Oh, you know what? That is a good question. It's a very controversial question in the Black church. I want to say you really can't mix science and religion all the time, because sometimes we forget that we're people, and it is absolutely okay to love, praise, and worship the Lord.
right.
Whoever your God is, it is okay. But when you notice that you are still not prospering and you're still not doing things the way your God would want you to do them, and well, it's time to talk to someone. God puts people on this earth for a reason. He
Right.
wants us to come together as a people and to help each other.
Right.
And so when you notice that you're not well, it's time to still get some help, because your body is your temple. God wouldn't have put smart people out here to create medicine and, have this fantastic technologies and things of that nature. And it's okay to do both. It is okay to do both, because you can see God clearly when you can see the world with a clearer picture, have a better scope.
Yes.
And if I could take it back just a few words ago, you mentioned something that's very true for, a lot of the ethnic community. We are experiencing stress-related disorders that is often misdiagnosed, right? So if you are experiencing so much stress, someone will say, that person is crazy. But when you talk through those stressors, when you talk through those traumatic instances and really start working through it, you know what? You'll find out that you are not crazy, and you are right where you need to be. You are normal.
Right.
And so you're not crazy. You are experiencing post-traumatic stress disorder, acute stress disorder, and I mean, sometimes we like to make the excuse, well, my parents used to spank me all the time. But if you're still remembering it and you're still repeating it, you are traumatized by it. Okay? There's nothing wrong with discipline, but if you're experiencing something and you're reactive to it, it's time to get some help.
That's right. That's right.
Okay. We have another question.
Okay.
How do you help someone who has been molested?
That's a very good question. And as a matter of fact, it's such a personal and sensitive question, and if I would love to speak to you in private and care for you in a private one-on-one setting, if this is you or if it's someone you know. And actually, I have a solution. It may or may not be familiar to you. It's called traumatic focused cognitive behavioral therapy. And in that, we sit and we talk and we do a lot of processing about the instance. We challenge these things called automatic thoughts. Do you feel that it's your fault? Are you experiencing guilt and shame? You see, the counseling session goes in different ways with that. And so there is a way to help individuals who have experienced sexual abuse, rape, any kind of trauma, sex trafficking. If you've experienced any of those things, yes, clinical mental health counseling is for you. And if you are interested, it is absolutely free if you're wanting to talk to someone, and you can call and schedule an appointment. And I have it's 205-441-4508.
Okay. And I just want to read this scripture. I know you touched about the church.
Yeah.
And me, myself, hey, I've had to deal with some things myself. I had to, you learn better.
Of course. Yeah.
Okay. So when it comes to the body, many times we try to separate the mind from the body, but it's all one. It's all one. And just like if something goes wrong, if I start feeling something, chest pains or whatever, I'm going to go to the doctor to get some help. And nobody's going to look down on me as far as church is concerned, to my church now, because I go to a cardiologist. Okay. My mind, something starts happening with my mind. Why should that be? Why should I be stigmatized or belittled or made to feel like I'm not a church member? I'll just say it like that. Because I'm seeing a doctor because I have mental issues. The Bible tells us in Proverbs, it says, Proverbs 12:25, heaviness in the heart of man, heaviness, that's depression. Your heart, you're sad, your heart feels heavy. It makes you feel like you want to cry. I'm a woman, so I probably do a lot of crying. But anyway, heaviness in the heart of man maketh it stoop, but a good word maketh it glad. Who you think we're gonna hear those good words from? Somebody got to tell us those good words. So we can't, and all the time, people that are around us may miss something because they're around us all the time, and they get used to us being. I know sometimes people are a little eccentric, and they get used to those things. But, and I'm gonna say it like this: if when you're not around a person enough, you can miss some things. Because our father had dementia. But because we weren't around him all the time, we were missing things. But once we started being around him, we were able to see the behavior change, and then we were able to do something about it because we began to see it. But otherwise, we didn't see it. We were just going by, somebody said this, somebody said that. Okay, but we don't see, because when he was around us, initially, he was fine. But you know how it progresses. It does. And so with us being around him more, we were able to see the progression and see the decline in his behavior, in the way he took care of himself. Just a lot of those signs that, and you overlook because you just think, well, they went to the store, they went to the grocery store, but how many times are they going to the grocery store? We found out, there was a lot of time he was going to the grocery store, he didn't really need to go to the grocery store, but that was because of the dementia kicking in, but we didn't see that because we went at his house all the time. So you have to, check on your loved ones, and and I'm just thinking going back to the church. Okay, I'm going to a cardiologist because my heart hurts. I'm going to get my eyeglasses. Jesus healed the blind in the Bible. He healed the blind, physical and spiritual. Okay, so he can heal us today too if our faith can take it in. He said he can do whatever our faith can take in. So if our faith can't take it in that he can heal my eyesight, I'm gonna go get me some glasses, which is nothing wrong with me getting glasses. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong. So you can see, so you can function in life. I mean, if you can't read, it's bad when you can't read. I've experienced that. I'm looking and I can't see the words. I gotta have it blown up. So that can be frustrating. But get you some help. Go get you some. Go down to the store and get you $1 pair of reading glasses.
Absolutely.
Go get your eyes checked. There's nothing wrong with that. So if my mind started doing some things, I started I don't know, going to the grocery store, and I went to the grocery store, went and bought something. Then I come back home. I go back to the grocery store again, buy the same thing. Come back home. I go back to the grocery store again, buy the same thing. Something's wrong, right? Okay. Go get some help. There's nothing wrong with that. You need the help, get the help. It's just like me going to get the glasses so I can see.
And it's private. You know, when you go to your physician, it's private. They don't tell anyone.
Right.
Unless they have permission from you to communicate with others. You know, that's called consent.
Mhm.
And if you're seeing, you know, a mental health counselor, they really are your friend.
Right.
They're not there to hurt you. They're not there to harm you. They are on your side.
Mm-hmm.
They
what we need.
They work night and day
Mm-hmm.
to study this craft,
Mm-hmm.
to help you in a way that a physician cannot,
Mm-hmm.
to help you in a way that the psychiatrist cannot.
Mm-hmm.
Your psychiatrist will prescribe you medications, but they're not really going to sit there and process these things with you.
Mm-hmm.
So don't think, well, I'm telling them too much. No, you're telling the right person, because they are obligated to something called confidentiality.
Right.
But under no means can anything that's discussed in that room go outside of that room,
Mm-hmm.
unless it's court ordered. And there's no reason for it to be court ordered unless you are an individual experiencing incarceration or you're an individual seeking that kind of assistance. But other than that, it's private. No one knows you're there.
Mm-hmm.
No one can just come in and request documentation. Oh no, it's a long process to do that.
Right. Gotta go through the court system and everything.
Absolutely.
And back to my dad, it can be very dangerous.
Right.
Because, you know, the situation he was going through, you know, we found out he was like feeding his dog maybe like 5 to 10 times a day. You know,
Yes.
so it can get dangerous. You know, you
Mhm.
know, so that's a lot of things. You know, people need to
Yes.
listen out for, look out for.
Okay. We have another question. If you think you deal with generational curses, are those a form of PTSD passed down?
Generational curses. That's really interesting. I've never had anyone ask me that, but it just depends. You know, generational curses is kind of an umbrella term. So which way are we going? Are we talking about you or someone you know being the scapegoat? Yes, that is traumatic. You know, you can have signs of post-traumatic stress disorder if you believe that you are the scapegoat or the black sheep, because there are long-term consequences with being the scapegoat or being the black sheep of the family.
Mhm.
You know, and it can bleed off into the workplace. And, you know, you have individuals taking advantage of you everywhere. You're quote unquote the carpet. So yeah, there are generational curses that are traumatic.
Mhm.
Right.
Okay. All right. We have another comment, but I can't read it. OT, you'll have to read it.
Valencia Moore. She said, I have been sad for a number of years after the passing of my dad. The family changed in a way that I know my parents wouldn't like. I know it's because there has been no conversation between us all together at one time. People not will come talk to a family member themselves. This has really hurt me. My grandchildren keep me going. I did get help and I am better. I had to speak up and say what I feel without hurting people. Now they are having a hard time with me speaking up. I think we should not keep things from others if you can help.
Yes.
You know, that's actually a really good point. You know, there are, you know, in families, you know, family systems therapy, you will find that there's usually 1, 2, or a few family members who realize that there is some unhealthy cohesion going on in the family, or that something, you know, like a crisis have occurred. Crisis could be just about anything we define it as a crisis that's caused a disturbance or some form of distress. You know, there are a few family members that step away from that toxicity And when you're looking in, I mean, when you're outside looking in and you notice it, you become kind of like the target. You become the target. You know, what makes you think you're better than we are? But that is the result of the unhealthy thinking. So don't absorb any guilt. You did fantastic to say, you know, something's wrong, and you went and got help.
Yes.
What a hero you
Yes.
are.
Yes.
Pat
Yes.
yourself
Yes.
on the back,
Yes.
because not many people are strong enough to do it.
Right.
Because
right.
if you can go no, what I call quote unquote no contact, especially if you're dealing with very narcissistic family members, or you're dealing with very toxic family members, going no contact is some of the best medicine you can give yourself. Or dealing with them with a long handled spoon, you know, to keep your health from going down, and encouraging them to, you know, reach out, encourage them to reach out.
Yes. And I know Mrs. Harper also does family therapy,
I
right?
do.
Family therapy.
Through children, families. It doesn't matter, you know, what I call condition, where you're from. It doesn't matter your income, because it's free. And, you know, I work with a number of people.
Okay. All right. And her number again is
205-441-4508.
All right. And you can reach her at that number. And remember, everything is top-notch confidential. Top-notch confidential. So if you want to call her and make an appointment,
Right.
the number again,
205-441-4508. If we weren't able to read your
question.
question on
Comment.
comment, you can call her and she can fill you in on everything that you need to know.
Right. And we appreciate you all tuning in and all the feedback we've gotten. And we just thank you so much. Thank you so much. And we appreciate Mrs. Harper for coming in and joining us today and enlightening us on mental health, depression. And we also know that there are many other topics in that falls under the umbrella of mental health. And we know there are many things that cause this depression. You know, you can be depressed. As one of our listeners wrote, from the passing of a loved one. You can be depressed from losing job loss, divorce, other family
Childhood
issues.
Yes.
Yes, childhood issue, things that haven't been resolved.
Domestic violence.
Domestic violence.
It's pretty
Yes.
high.
Yes. All right. And Dolores Mason says we must pay attention to our loved ones, not just in passing. Stop, have a conversation, listen, hear what they're talking about. That's right. We have to listen. We must listen. And many times people, you know, tell us things and we miss it because we're not listening. We're hearing, but we're not listening. So we do thank you. Thank you so much. And again, thank you all for tuning in. And Mrs. Harper, thank you for being a guest on our show.
Having me.
Anything else that you would like to leave with the listeners?
Well, I would, I like to leave, with a word of encouragement, for those that are experiencing something. You're one of a million people that are experiencing something, and for you to get up and do something about it every day and have hope, and wishful thinking. You are a superhero, and a superhero to yourself and to many others who are watching you. And so I'm so proud of you. And if you are, interested, and you know someone who's interested, then reach out.
That's right. Okay. Thank you so much. We're going to read this one scripture for our closing. And it's Psalm 67. God, be merciful unto us and bless us and cause his face to shine upon us, that thy way may be known upon the earth, that thy saving health among all nations. Let the people praise thee, O God. Let all the people praise thee. Oh, let the nations be glad and sing for joy. For thou shalt judge the people righteously and govern the nations upon the earth. Let the people praise thee, O God. Let all the people praise thee. Then shall the earth yield her increase, and God, even our own God, shall bless us. God shall bless us, and all the ends of the earth shall fear him. And when we receive light, we're to walk therein. And remember, dear ones, whether therefore ye eat or drink or whatsoever you do, you want to do it all to the glory of God. And we love you and thank you again for tuning in.
The Sweet Lady and OT Gospel Show right here on Smash Bros Radio. Thanks everybody for tuning in.
I may have fame to my name. I may have everything that life could bring and still remain the same. I may have the house, the cars and jewels and all. I might become a star, but I will only serve, oh serve you. I will only serve you, Jesus. I may be rich, I may be poor, I may be a nominee for the Grammys and win every stellar award. I may have 1,000,000 friends when it begins. I may just lose them all, but I will only serve, oh serve you. I will always serve you, Jesus. I will only serve, oh serve you. I will only serve. I will serve you. say, say, you always say, oh, say, I will save, I will save you. I will always say, in the morning I will say, I will always say, oh, say, say, oh, say.